Another shortcut on the keyboard is Ctrl A. If I press Ctrl A, I open up the attribute editor. If I press it again, I open up the channel box. And these two are very important windows. If I select the sphere in the background, you will see that in the channel box we have a kind of summary of some of the data connected to the geometry. The position, the rotation, the scale of this one. And when I change, for example, position, you see that it changes up here. And by writing in numbers, I can also change the position of the geometry. So the channel box is very important. In the attribute editor, we see all the data, all the values that this sphere has. For example, we have over here in this tab, we have the translate, rotate and scale and so on. In polysphere, this tab, we have the number of axes. If I increase that one, the sphere will have more polygons and more details. If I render this one, it will be much smoother. Oh, sorry, there is no light here. Let's add a light again. If I render this one with the light, you will see that when I do the final render, it is much smoother because I have added more polygons. And that was what I did here in the attribute editor. And if I select a light, then in the attribute editor I see the attributes connected to that light. For example, the color, the intensity, and other things. So that is the control, the attribute editor and the channel box. Another shortcut that is very important is to group objects. If I select two objects, for example the sphere and the light, I can press Ctrl G in order to group them, and then I can move them as an object and rotate them and so on. And there are two reasons why you want to group objects. One is to create a hierarchy so that it's much more easy to find and select different parts of the model. Because in a complex model you might have thousands of parts, and it's much more easy to select different parts of a model if you have the different geometries grouped. And also another very important reason for grouping is that it facilitates animation. If you think of the wheels of a car, the front wheels of the car should circulate around their axis, and they need to be able to turn in order to make the car turn, and the whole car needs to be able to go forward along a path. And that is animation on 3 different levels. And in order to make it easier to do that kind of complex animation, you can group the different parts of the model and apply the animation on the different groups. And if you think of a bouncing ball, for example, you can even divide the animation of that one, because a bouncing ball is one movement up and down and one movement along a path. And by separating those animations with 2 groups, for example, you group the ball twice, and then you can animate the movement along a path and the movement up and down separately. And you will get a nice curve of the bouncing ball. And it's much more easier to change and manipulate the animation if you do it in that way. If you want to ungroup an object, you have it up here on the Edit and Ungroup. When we are talking about groups, I can also highlight the window that is called Hypergraph. As you see in Maya, there are lots of windows, and I will highlight some of the most important ones. The hypergraph is definitely one of the most important ones. It looks like this. I can navigate in it in the same way as I navigate in a perspective view by clicking Alt and using the buttons on the keyboard. And over here I have the group that I have created. We had a spotlight there also. I can take that one away, select it and delete. And here you see one of the good things with the hypergraph, that I don't see the spotlight in the perspective view because the spotlight is inside the sphere, so I can easily miss it. But if I open up the hypergraph, I can easily see that I have a spotlight and I can take it away. And as you see, you also have the group here with the sphere and the point light. And also, talking about groups, it is a very good idea to give good names for things. Like group 1, for example, it's not a very good name. So let's call it something else. And same with the sphere. You can call it moon, and then the point light is of course the sun, for example. And I really recommend that you give proper names for most parts of the model, because when you eventually have hundreds of different parts, it can be very confusing to find the right geometry and the right light and so on. So give them proper names. It will save you a lot of time. Finally, one small thing. If you want to select several objects, you can either drag a marquee around them, or you can click on them and press Shift in order to select the next one.